Learning Summit.
Hi, everybody. I'm Doreen Chung, and I'm an associate professor in merchandising design. I know I have students online from 375. Hello, everybody. It is my honor, and I'm super excited to introduce our next speaker, Josh Streets. Josh is a founder and CEO of the Scoreboard Group Consulting. He has spent the last 20 plus years in executive leadership, consulting, and advisory. He is widely known as a thought leader in the AI industry, working alongside leading brands like Whole Foods and Chipotle. He actually just came back from a conference regarding AI from Florida. We're very glad you are able to meet it today, Josh. So Josh's expertise lies in the intersection of consumer experience, AI operations, and IT, whether it's omnichannel retailing strategy, digital transformation, or a data science engagement. All roads lead to his team's mission of making AI less artificial, which is just the topic of his talk today. So please join me and welcome Josh.
Thanks, Dr. Chung. Thank you guys for having me here. It's an honor to be here. Thanks for asking me to the event, and just excited to get right into it. Honor for me because this is the birthplace of the computer, right? And team logo. I'm excited to talk about today. So what better topic than artificial intelligence right now? It's pressing. Before we get into the slides and everything, I think I just want to say thanks for those that put together the event and all that you've done to kind of get us to this place, as well as Tyler for opening up and everything. So if we could just give them a round of applause as well. So AINIA, basically, right? AI in Iowa. It's heating up. That's got a nice ring to it. I'm going to note that one, maybe trademark that. But my goal here today is really to have you think differently. And that's really the message, is think bigger, think differently. And overall, it's my job, and really in all the engagements that we have with our clients, in our teams, and the trainings that we do, to inspire that and explain the whys behind it. So that's what I'm going to get into today. And really, we're in the Innovation Center today. And I promised not to make my talk boring. So I know it's computers, and I'm not starting off great with some of the quantum talk, and I'm going to avoid most of that. That conference in Orlando was that. So this is refreshing to get here and speak about a whole different topic in general. But I'm going to just kind of mix it up a little bit as we got some people coming back. We've got people online. Just bear with me here. If you could, just raise your right leg off the ground and circle it in a clockwise motion. I promise this is relevant, gets the energy going, gets you engaged. With your right hand in the air at the same time, if you could, draw a number 6 with your pointer finger. Tell me what happens to your foot. Ah, interesting. I see a few people trying again and again and again. They actually say it's humanly impossible to do that. And by the end of this, I'm actually going to show you a way to maybe change the prompt that you're giving your brain to make it humanly possible. And when I'm talking about AI and what's available to us, it's not going to be all, puppies and rainbows. There are the risks, which Tyler talked about, but I'm going to try to keep it to what's possible, not just in large enterprise, large business, but what you can also do from a small and medium business standpoint, and then take questions at the end before we move to the panel, which will really bring it home at the local level. So if you could go to the next slide. I've got a question for you. If you could, and come up a little closer if you need to scan the QR, but I figured in the spirit of technology, ask you a question. What would you like to see AI do in the next 80 years? So you can do this at home as well. If you're on the webcast, you should be able to get that QR code, and we will start to actually see these results come in real time as people determine what they'd like to see AI do in the next 80 years. Okay, custom create my wardrobe. I didn't know you were going to talk about that, Tyler, but thank you for the segue. I'll give you $20 after this. Plan and prepare my meals is starting to get some traction. Tell me if I have diabetes. Plan my spring break and fly me there. Okay. Become my virtual assistant. We're shifting here. We'll give it another maybe 10 seconds before we move forward. Oh, we got a new leader. Plan and prepare my meals. Okay, we can move on. We got a tie at the top. Let's just keep it that way. And I've got actually news for you. All of those things are available today or in a final proof of concept. I see some heads nodding, so some of you might actually already be using those things. We're talking about the next 80 years. So I'd really like to talk about what's going to be possible, but then also talk about some of the things that you touched on in your questions around hallucination of models, bias of models, training of models. A lot of the deep data science we'll kind of touch on, but I don't want to lull you to sleep at the same time. So basically, I want to get into where we're at with Gen AI, and I've linked it to retail because I know that's important. So whether you're going into hospitality, retail, creativity, I think this is a pretty good indicator of where we were really last year. So overall, if you are, this might be small, so I'll break it down for you. If you are overall looking at where each sector is, as far as the people that are employed by these sectors, where they are at with using AI and using generative intelligence, large language models. You can see the arrow specifically is pointing at the consumer goods and retail. And in that gray box, it's specifically saying there's no exposure. So you have the largest, if you're going into this space, opportunity in my mind, if you're using tools like this, if you're learning more about AI, to move into positions, companies, roles ahead of the game, essentially. So just think about that. Look at the different sectors. You get some sense for where certain things are. If you look at financial services, they're already basically using it to do the data analysis for them. So they will load the PDF report in, send it up, and basically say, give me the top 3 performance trends that need to be fixed and tell me the behaviors behind them from a financial standpoint that we need to retrain or enable in our organization to move the needle on these metrics, or improve ROI, or get cash flow moving in the right direction for the southeast of our markets, things like that. So financial services, especially banking, financial industry, when we're doing most of our trainings with larger companies and medium companies, we do a maturity scale and really ask them a bunch of questions around where they are on their journey to an AI transformation. And I'll talk about my company a little bit more about that later, but we've only had 2 leaders in approximately 200 to 300 companies over the last 2 to 3 years that have been through that two-day workshop. So the message there is, even though this looks grim, you're not really that far behind, just from a retail sector and beyond. Just overall, there's a lot of companies that aren't where they need to be or where they want to be, and they're simply trying to figure out, how do we move forward? What's the strategy need to look like? And how do we do this without violating any data privacy or ethics laws as we proceed? So that's Gen AI usage. And now to get out of the nerdiness and make it just real life, I am a dad of some teen daughters, high school age. And I ate a big slice of humble pie when we were in Florida. So I took them to the conference late last year that I did. And of course, I'm in the full 2-day session with companies and going through that. And this was our first chance to meet up on the left here at dinner at the restaurant. And it was a moment that I don't think I'll ever forget. And it's basically me saying to them as we're sitting at the table, hey, there must be some sort of high school sports team or somebody here, because I've been seeing all of these girls and guys wearing the white fox sweatshirts. I don't know where they're from or which team they are or which state they come from, but they're all over. And very quickly, my girls kind of looked at each other, looked at me to see if I was joking, which I was not. I thought I was kind of hip and cool, but I really learned I'm not that day. And it was pure laughter. And they filled me in on what this White Fox brand was. And I will tell you, in the last several months, I've had to dive a little deeper into understanding how they got to where they've gotten to. And I think there's even some speculation, right, about this overall brand and kind of how they got there. But I wanted to break down their use case, if we go back, to basically explain exactly how they got to where they got to. So the way I understand it. So we worked with a lot of brands, we haven't worked with them, but I learned very quickly after the embarrassment that they are from Australia, and they started out on eBay. It was just a two-person thing. And they were basically making clothes in their garage. I think you hear a lot about startup stories like this. The garage always comes in somehow. But they really did start on eBay, and two individuals, and basically started to build it up through influencers. So as Instagram and really that e-commerce omni-channel platform started to come out, they were early adopters of it, and using a lot of the data that they could find from that platform, and then also about their consumer base to target them and successfully create the ads that they needed to move it forward. Add in some celebrities wearing their stuff and beyond. You guys are fully aware of this, or most of you may be, but just in case you're not, like I wasn't. Timing was everything. So right as they were blowing up, COVID happened, and they just happened to release the loungewear line, which is what I saw all over the hotel and the resort, which was not a soccer team. It was a viral sensation among the teens that were at the resort that didn't even know each other. And I don't know why I hadn't seen that logo before, maybe in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where I'm from. My kids might have even had the shirts. It just never caught my eye. After that, then they launched their US website and started to grow globally. So they've moved out of Australia. They've gotten the growth through the couple of different lines. They're starting to diversify. None of that's really AI yet. That's just automation, marketing, and business sense. So we haven't even gotten to the AI components. But then here comes the hypergrowth. So as you get to that place, and if you're wanting to scale, if you're wanting to get some private equity funds, if you're wanting to take this to the next level, that's really where they had to look at their systems and say, how can we supercharge this and basically give it a consistent customer experience across the board from a sales or service perspective, but then also, how are we going to use all these data points to personalize the entire experience across the mobile app specifically, but even if they do go to the website, we want to do it as well. So Salesforce was a key component in that, and where they are now is significant growth. They don't release a lot of information on kind of the overall, but we know that they've expanded to the UK. They've got storefronts opening up in the United States, and they've got global domination on their mind. So if you think about this from a retail perspective, an apparel perspective, a local Iowa perspective, and you're thinking, these things aren't available to me, or I can't do the same level of AI that these large enterprises can, the answer is you absolutely can. But you have to have a strategy first. You have to know exactly what you're looking to do. You have to have a vision, and you have to remember that AI is not a project. And this is why 60% of AI projects last year failed. They fell flat on their face in 2023. And the reason why is people are looking at it, organizations have been looking at it like it's a project. It is not. It is a transformation. It is iterative, as Tyler said. It's got to go through multi-years, multi-phases. This is the future of work we're talking about. And some are just looking at it like, I just need to buy this one tool and all my problems are going to be solved once I get it up and I get it trained. Not right. Not correct at all. but it is the smart companies that are figuring out where do we even begin first? What are the use cases that aren't going to take 4 years to implement and cost me multi-millions of dollars? And where can we have our employees and our customers kind of gain trust with it first? So it's different by every company. It's different by everything you're trying to do and where you're looking to go. But my role, Scoreboard Group's role, and then we've got efficiencies.ai and investments in several other brands. And it's not just those big logos that you see on the right that are coming to our sessions or have been involved in our CX events. It's small and medium business as well. So these are the ones that I know you recognize that I can share. There's obviously more than that, but we are becoming what I would say the premier authority of AI consulting, advisory, and even procurement of tools and systems in Iowa, at least. And we've obviously taken that far beyond Iowa. So not in Iowa very much anymore, but have had some, local clients overall that that we've worked on, maybe not full on AI, but the journey or the path to AI over the last several years. So I'm not going to go too far on this, but we meet at the intersection of customer experience, employee experience, and AI, and how do those impact each other? Even we're looking at employee engagement and the large turnover that we saw during the Great Resignation for companies and trying to get underneath that. And in those particular sessions, it was gathering the data via the survey, using tools like Qualtrics, which you're using here. We saw it with what you've got in your surveys and your online forms, and mining that data on the back end to figure out what are the key trends, what are the themes. That's qualitative data, and then that's quantitative data. So we're not just looking at the main numbers, but we've got all the data science principles behind it to basically say, we're going to capture your verbatim comments in a focus group in a meeting and isolate those into some key trends or a word cloud of what's happening. And then we're also going to do it through the CX surveys that you're filling out online. And every single app that we've got where you're able to give us feedback, we're going to bring it into an entire voice of the customer movement. And we will report out on it. It's going to be beyond just the net promoter score and seeing how we compare to your competitors. We're going to take it to the entire next level. And again, with AI, with evolving tools, they're becoming more cost effective. These are things that if you took the time to learn, or you had somebody in a smaller or newer business today, you could absolutely take advantage of. They're not that far out of reach to where you couldn't grow or scale like a white fox with the right overall strategy from a retail perspective. So another way to say this, and I'm going to do it through video, is we help companies avoid this. And if we could get a little more volume.
D-E-N as in Nancy, license plate, B as in boy, X 355. Yeah, no, I don't think that, I didn't say what it was. I didn't say January, I didn't say anything, I didn't give a month, I didn't give a day, what was gonna do?
Maybe just hit escape on the PowerPoint. Maybe that will, I don't know where it went.
Dennis Reynolds. Got it. No, I got it. just enter all that information into the system. That's okay, no, that's okay. Daisy, listen, don't be sorry, okay? I'm not mad at you. I'm a little upset, but I'm upset at the situation, okay? And then the situation is this, Daisy, if you'll just give me a second, so, okay? My new phone won't call my car, okay? So I called the car rental company, and they put me on the supervisor who told me to call to the roadside, but called to the roadside. Spoke to someone over there who put me on the supervisor who told me to so I called the service and spoke to about 2 to 3 well, no answer for me whatsoever. They put me on the phone. They're supervisor. And this person told me to call the car rental company. So I called the car rental company. Then roadside, service center, rental, roadside, service center. Rental company, roadside, service center, or around like that. So finally, someone has a phone to mind to let me know that it's got here, so I don't care. Okay, so I told the customer care line, and now I'm finding myself talking to you, Daisy. A little wildflower, and you asked me to enter into the VIN and the date of birth again, information which I've already entered into your system. Okay, now listen, Daisy, bear with me, okay? I know you didn't create the system. Okay, so you are not to blame. But somebody did create it. And I would very much like to blame that person. So, who is that? Who is the person who created your system in such a way that the information entered into the computer isn't passed on to the human representative? No, don't send me to a supervisor, Daisy. Just you and me, Daisy. I've been fighting against the system engineer to try to solve. See, if we had to take days off for mental health. Daisy? Yes. You still say America, right? Yes, it is. Where?
So real life situation scenario, and I'm sure we've all been through that at some level. I know when I hand my phone to my daughters to say, hey, could you call the restaurant that we're going to make sure they're actually open at this time because it's a holiday and I don't know if Google's correct. A lot of times I will hand the phone over and I will get the phone passed back like, you want me to talk to them? You actually want me to call and speak to them and ask them about the hours? So we know just from a consumer standpoint, things are changing and they're changing very quickly. But we're trying to be all things to all customers right now. And that's not an easy thing to do. It's getting extremely complex to figure that out. And every single industry, whether it's healthcare to retail to tech and beyond, is trying to figure out how can we find the right persona, create that using the data, and then basically treat customers the way they want to be treated through all these channels. So if you prefer self-service, I'm going to deliver you a web screen on your phone or on your computer of pushing you those digital channels first versus showing you the call-in number. If we know from the data in your CRM that you are more of the type that wants to call and talk to somebody, you prefer the white glove experience, somebody to explain the billing issue or the shipping problem, we're going to present you a different website or a different mobile app. That same thing goes with offers. You've seen the personalization in some of the other tools and systems. So I'll talk a little bit here about Starbucks and Netflix and how they're looking at all that information and delivering you what they think you're going to grasp a hold of or what you would appreciate. That is the race to personalization that if you are a small business right now or a medium business, if you can crack the code on how to do that with the data and the information that you have, you will be competing with the big boys with a very minimal investment, big boys and girls. So think about that if you are a business owner, if you're online and a business owner, or even if you're a student that's trying to think through, I want to launch my own clothing brand. Outside of just the apparel and the AI that's there, you need to be thinking about all different aspects. How can you think about it holistically? It's really an ecosystem overall. So how to get ready? There's a lot of things that can come up to make you fail, and this is where we come in. Most times we're either being brought in prior to this just by word of mouth or referral, or sometimes it's we bought this, it's been 3 years, We haven't seen any results. What did we do wrong? Can you help fix what broke in this entire system? So that's number one. And then you can see all the different reasons or areas why they fail today. And a lot of it comes down to the foundations and the principles. So understanding it, making sure executive leaders that are saying, go get me this because my competitor or my neighbor talked about it and implement it, and I want it done in 6 months. Some of those instances, it's not real life. And there needs to be somebody internal that can push back on that, that can help the senior leadership team understand that. So if you look at A through O and all of these other expertises, there's that are picking on understanding, on responses, on data in the back end, and they're getting smarter. They're overcoming some of the bias in hallucination, and overall, they're improving themselves as they move forward. And then the only other one I'll talk about is just the speech to text transcription. I think we've all seen it in a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting or whatever tool we're using, whether it's Google or something else, to the transcription of the meeting. So that stuff is happening on phone calls as well. So we do a lot of contact center work, and you are actually able to mine that data via queries to say, every Friday we're seeing a spike in dissatisfaction or the sentiment of our customers declines based on the quality scores that we're getting. I need to know why every other Friday that's happening. And you can literally ask it that question, and it can give you 1 to 2 of the top reasons, and listen to the calls through the transcription to figure out exactly why it might be happening and give you the answer back. So this was one of the first projects I did back in 2008. So if you think about that and how long it's been around, and now it's significantly dropped in overall costs, that you can start gathering this information with tools you're already using today, maybe with an upgrade or a license that could be beneficial to you overall. So real life examples, things that are actually happening in business today, and things that you can take advantage of if you understand the principles behind it, what the use cases are, which ones are going to drive the KPIs or the results that you're looking for. So speaking of KPIs and trends, just a few quick nugget numbers. So 25% of companies adopting AI because of labor shortages for this year. So they can't find the people that they need. So when you're seeing the announcements of AI interviews are happening at an alarming level, basically doing the screening via AI on a video call. Maybe some of you have been a part of these interviews, and then it's transcribing it and scoring it even, and then sending the top 10 hires based on that score to the hiring leader. So they're looking for ways to not necessarily cut jobs in some instances, but to say, where can I get some value out of this to help with some of the shortfall I have in finding the people that would traditionally do all this job screening? Next, growth rate, and that's compound annual growth rate. So 37.3% year over year, all the way to 2030. So $29 billion industry for software right now for AI. It will be, if there's any math students in here, don't hold me accountable to this, but I think it's over $130 billion by 2030. And there's speculation on that. There's a lot of speculation on if that's too conservative, the way everything's going and how fast it's happening. And then last but not least, just overall where we sit, just from a country perspective here, China is ahead. If you look at the data that's out there in the marketplace to figure out kind of country by country, where are different places overall on their journey. So overall, we are behind and have some catching up to do, or some partnership where it makes sense. So I want to get to that quote very at the bottom. If we could go back just a second, it's AI might not take your future job opportunity away, but someone who knows how to use AI may. I think that's important, and I think it kind of trails on Tyler's message that, you know, we want to remain optimistic, but we have to, you know, be realists too, that there could be some jobs that go away. There will be some jobs that go away. And if you are in a situation like that, and you have an AI skill set, and you have a foundation, and you have a training, there's going to be new jobs that are created to replace some of those jobs. This screen really shows you some of those titles. This is not by any means anywhere near the amount of them that we're starting to see pop up in the marketplace. But a lot of companies, I would say leading edge companies that are the leaders, have already updated their job descriptions. They've already started to look for some of these things. They've already built upskilling programs in their training for existing employees to actually go through this, not just leaders, but everybody on the front line. And they've acquired either free training or they partner with organizations for paid training to make sure that they are doing everything that they need to move in the right direction. So I'm going to just read a few of these off before I keep going. AI ethicists. This is the one that's hitting the news a lot. So if you think about that AI software that's doing the interviewing, and depending on what it was trained on and depending on the model, if it has bias built into it that you maybe not know until you start to hire people and see that it's, you know, hiring a certain type of individual, that's going to lead you directly into a lawsuit around equal opportunity employment. And this is a case that's in litigation right now. That is real time. It's already happening. It's on our front doorstep. So when you start to think about how do we safeguard ourselves, it's great to be an early adopter, but what does that come with? And do you or does your legal team have enough bench power to fight those if they're going to come up, or have them drag out in long court cases, because these will go to the Supreme Court. A lot of them will. Even drive-throughs right now that we're starting to capture voice information in a fast food restaurant have been halted, because if you keep that voice print, you can gain a lot of information from that voice print. So the real-time example, and I showed it on that screen, you know, tell me if I have diabetes. It's already doing that with a high degree of success. It can tell from your voice print and your digital ID through a drive-through, and it's stored on a server if you are somebody that has type 2 diabetes in the 90+%. Real life happening, bunch of news articles out there about that. So if you're a company and I didn't give you the consent to keep that information, what kind of offers, marketing, other things could you be tailoring to me? And I might not even want those. So if you've ever called into a call center and you've heard this call may be recorded for quality purposes, they have to put that on there for that reason. But now we're entering this new wave, especially in California, of it's beyond that now. You have to tell me if there's any AI that's being leveraged as a result of it. And that's where the fight is coming in there and pausing everything. So I don't want to get into the weeds there with everything, but when I talk about ethicists, that's why. RPA manager, you're seeing a lot of those out there today. But I think the big one that if you are to look at, and you know, if you followed any social media AI newsletters, business trends, LinkedIn, the prompt engineer is the one that's getting all the hype. And basically saying, as graduates,
feel sick.
Collaborations between universities, businesses, and tech communities. Promote AI education and career opportunities in Iowa. Target audience AI and tech professionals, university students and faculty, local and international AI and software companies, investors and entrepreneurs interested in AI. Event highlights, keynote speeches from global AI leaders, workshops and seminars on AI trends and skills, startup pitch sessions and innovation showcases, networking events for professionals and students, revenue streams, sponsorships.
So
from
you
tech
get the point. I would then ask it, could you create me an explainer video along with that logo and design me a website that's basically going to get this up and going? And I could have this done in approximately 10 minutes. With the right partnerships in Iowa, with the right software companies. Google just made a very large investment in the Cedar Rapids area, one of the, I believe, the city's largest investment for data centers. There's a lot going on here. I'm really tired of going to Florida all the time for these conferences, and I would love to have something like this done here. And I think being at the Innovation Center and the AI in IA, maybe there's some things we could do. So if there's anybody around on business that is willing to collaborate, I could see either through Papa John or some of the other, types of incubators that are there, not recreate the wheel, but make it very specific and custom to AI, because there's obviously a lot of interest. And we know from our data and our experience that we're just getting started. It's the golden age. And if you're not jumping on it, if you're not quick enough, you won't be able to do all the things that you want to do in the long run. And by the way, on the flight here last night, I actually did get that trademarked and done in about 5 minutes through the US Patent and Trademark Office, and just doing it on my phone. So we're set to go. Whenever you guys are ready, I'm ready. So retail personalization overall, this is how the sausage is made. This is shareable. This is public information, but this is really the playbook on what these brands are doing, and then how you can use this to your advantage as a small, medium, or enterprise business. Most of the enterprise businesses that we work with are already doing this, or they're looking for us to come and help them with it. So in case it's too small on the screen or you're not at home and seeing it, I'm just going to give you a taste of it. It's custom and relevant advertising. Let's skip through that. It's the recommendation engines, the predictive analytics. What products or services will this individual, this consumer, this business likely go for? One of my other first projects in 2009 was trying to figure out which customers are most likely to churn based on all the data points, all the calls, all the transactions on social media. And can we proactively go towards those customers to save them before they exit and switch to another provider? That stuff's been happening for over a decade, 15, 20 years. Omnichannel customer service, this was huge during COVID. So people that couldn't open up their brick and mortar, if they didn't have a web channel or some other digital channel to sell or service their customers, they went out of business. So you saw a lot of companies after this leapfrog their projects and their budgets to say, we need to be in all of these channels no matter what. And we need to consolidate our systems, reduce our total cost of ownership of all these other multi-channel systems, and bring them as much into one as we can. Chatbots, I don't need to go through, but you can see the entire journey of the customer and journey mapping out everything that they're doing through the process of buying or servicing, and then getting it to a point where you understand where the friction is, where the pain is, and how you reduce effort. That's where the industry's going. And then you add personalization on top of it, and then you've got the secret to success overall. So loyalty programs, obviously we saw on the White Foxes, and you're seeing at Ulta, and you're seeing at Starbucks, obviously a big component of it. They're not new, but they're getting smarter, they're getting more intelligent, and they're not giving everybody the same loyalty offers. There's different rewards for different customer types. So that's one of the things we're also doing. And if you call into an IVR, it's going to recognize your phone number. And then based on that information, I will know as a company what your lifetime value is with the company overall. So if you've spent 3 times more with our brand, even though we're not going to tell you that in the rewards profile, I know you are a gold or platinum level customer. And as a result, I might even bump you to the front of the line of the queue to get you answered faster, or I might send you to somebody that got the highest CX scores in their after call survey, because I know you're going to get really well taken care of. I'm not going to publicize that. I don't want everybody to feel like if I'm not your highest value customer that you're going to give me poor service. These things are happening on the back end today already, and a lot of people aren't even aware. So then you get into some of those questions, right, around transparency. And how are you using this information? Is it for good? And I don't want to get too deep into that, but basically the message is, and the answer is, start now. Start now. Learn what you can. Learn the terminology. There's a lot of issues right now with people saying things are AI, but they're not. They're actually automation, or they're confusing them amongst all those 15 that I wrote up there. You need to know what each one of them does, how they can benefit you either as a consumer, a human in your own life, or as a business, and then start to figure out, how do I prioritize what to go after from here? So it is learning, it's iteration, it's not a project, it's a transformation. And the sooner you can jump on board, whether you're going to go into AI or data science or not, the better off you're going to be in the long run, no matter what you're going to do after this. So with that, I think we're at a place where I'm ready for some questions. And if you want to connect on LinkedIn and you can get that deal up there, happy to do it. But until then, I'll repeat back the questions that I get and do my best to answer them. Yes.
Fashion industry, is that possible, like, fashion design or fashion technical design more AI related? For example, I'm a fashion major, fashion design major, can I try to involve more AI in future design and during the workforce?
Yeah, absolutely. I think no matter what you're doing right now in any job, I think there's an opportunity to evolve or leverage it or use it. And I think this is where we're thinking it's going to come down to augmentation. And some of these jobs, the low-hanging fruit, the easy stuff, have the ability to be 100% automated, and they already are. So you've seen that at your checkout lines. You've seen that a lot of places. When it comes to design, and again, this is my opinion only, I believe I've got the concurrence of Tyler, who's nodding his head because we talked about it right beforehand. That design, I think, if you are going to have that be 100% automated or done by large language creativity models or anything beyond that, I think it presents some risk because you're not adding the human element into it, at least spot checking the design, at least, adding some human creation into it. It's already being done. Some people are generating drop shipping, e-commerce, Shopify stores that they're not having any hand in the design besides just kind of glancing at it and saying, oh, I like that. Let's upload that. And when you're thinking about profit and customization and understanding what your company's brand promise is, I think you could teach a large language model some of that, but you're still going to want to have an eye for quality and what your consumers are going to demand without just unleashing it to do it on its own. Thanks. What else? Yes.
If they're, gold standard star level in the call center situation. Do you ever look at the demographics beyond profit in who's getting bumped and make analyses on that and make decisions based upon those analyses?
So the question was, to repeat it back, the reference of using dollars as a way to prioritize or route customers through these channels. Do you ever look at anything besides dollars to give the appropriate treatment? And that answer is yes, absolutely. Probably the best example I have is if you are a new customer, maybe in your first 90 days, or you've got your first bill, we can find that in the system, either via some sort of unique identifier that's already there, or saying when was their customer start date, and then present you different options to help educate you as a customer, to give you a better experience if you're brand new. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
More specifically, when I say demographics, I meant things like, race. Like, do you ever like look at like, are the people who you're going to of a particular race? And so they're in all of that, and then make decisions based on that.
So the question was, are you using different demographics than what I mentioned, more race specific? And the answer for me is no. I've never, I don't even know. I'm sure it exists in some companies' data in their information, but it's not something I've ever used as an indicator to say treat this or route, and I don't know of any companies that have.
Oh, more so like catching things that might be problematic, for example, like, who's always getting bumped to the top.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying?
so
Not saying it's not a direction, like, oh, we want you to feel better, but identify potential issues that might be happening.
sure. Sure. I get you. So are you spot checking what the system is doing based on the information to make sure that it's not giving anybody a fair or unfair advantage? And that's part of the risk that comes with it, that you always have to be looking at that kind of thing to make sure you're not creating a bad experience no matter what's happening. So a lot of companies do have protocols in place to make sure that as they're making these decisions, what are the folks that aren't getting the priority or aren't getting routed? What is their experience? And then what are the demographics of that? So yes. Yes.
You say like we need to learn how to design different in our careers and stuff, but I guess I'm sort of confused on like what exactly AI is, like a program, or like when you say learn how to it's like knowing about it, or like like,
Sure. Yeah. So the question is, you say we need to use it or know it for our careers, and it's going to help. But what exactly is it, and to what level do we need to be aware of it? And I think that's a mixed bag answer, because there are different levels of learning. But I would say depending on your career, and I'm not saying you're going to fail if you don't know it either, right? I'm just saying there could be advantages that you could have by learning this skill, just like if you're going into leadership, taking some leadership courses and understanding the components, reading books about leadership is going to help you. But where I'm going is there's some basic entry-level courses to start with that can kind of give you a lay of the land, all the way to the complex coding, measurement, and beyond that are out there for free. So if you wanted to know kind of what some of those learnings were, I don't want to overshadow the university if there's a whole catalog and I'm not sure. But I will say on efficiencies.ai, I have listed the top 60 free courses that you can take via Coursera, IBM, Google, companies that were early adopters in a lot of this, or online learning platforms where you can just go out and take a look. And it's got ratings, and it's also got really a breakdown of, is this entry level or is this expert level? So you can get an idea of ones that you may want to take or may not want to. Yes.
Do we have any names to begin our AI journey with as a student?
Do we have any names?
Any tools that you would recommend that we start building our knowledge right now?
Great question. So do we have any tools or knowledge from a student perspective that we can use today to start growing? I would say that catalog of the 60 free trainings, but there is a wealth of information out there right now, probably even through the university, to really understand exactly where you want to go and what you want to do with it. So I think there's more than enough out there from a tool perspective, from a learning, from a training perspective. You just have to know the right prompts to go out there and find it, or talk to somebody that knows exactly what you're looking to do with it to figure out where to go and get it. So there is not one, I would say, dominant hub or place where people are going, but there are newsletters that come out daily on AI that you can subscribe to that give you all of these quick tips and hints and beyond, that if you're busy, if you're still in class, if you've got a lot going on in your life, I read a couple of emails a day. That's one that I'm passionate about. So I read that. I get all of them in a very quick headline view, and I kind of stay up to date because I have to. I can't go into a session with some of those brands and not be the expert. So that's how I approach it.
You want to follow up? Okay, so follow up. And then so now, talking as a student entrepreneur, I know from my field that if I know about merchandising, designing, and the traditional way of doing everything, I know everything, the knowledge is there in me, but AI will enhance the speed and everything. Now, I feel designing a website, taking a decision on what is working for my brand, what is not, making that decision that this is the correct design, or this is the perfect supply chain that I'm going for. For that, I feel that this is a technical knowledge, technical skill set. So for me to start right now as a student, how much technical knowledge or skill building is required, and how much is good enough to start my journey? And know that we are good.
So I'll repeat it back. As a student with an entrepreneurial spirit, what do I need to do? What do I need to learn? And how do I take advantage of some of the things that are out there? And to what levels is the right level as I'm trying to figure this out?
My skills, my technological skills, how much it has to be there to start.
Yep. How much skill development do I need, or knowledge around the subject to even do something? Best thing I've got for that is a real life story with my two daughters and what I'm doing at home. So this white fox thing obviously really shook me. And as some of these tools started coming out, I started thinking to myself, if this is going to be their future and their careers, and they're into fashion and influencing and TikTok, and it's driving a lot of their behavior, then I'm trying to get my children to be creators and not necessarily consumers. And I'm not meaning social media stars. I'm meaning I want to train their brains to think not just buy, get what everybody else is getting, but how could they in turn be a creator? You're always going to be somewhat of a consumer, but I basically started a clothing company with them. So we haven't launched yet, but we've been working together. We've got a logo, which we got from Canva. It was very easy. We asked what the brand value was and what they're trying to drive and what they want to do and what their personal values are. We built that. We've got a website that stood up in beta form. We've got it linked to shopping. We've ordered some of the clothes from it. And they have been the ones that have basically gone out and procured some of these things or helped set them up. Not all of them. And they've got a very limited level in terms of technical know-how and expertise. So I'm saying, download this app. We have a subscription or we don't. Some of this was free. Go out and come back and let's talk about the top 3 logos you guys picked. And let's figure out which one we think is going to resonate. And then we'll go with it. And then we'll test it. And then we'll get some of the sweatshirts and sweatpants and things that you guys like to wear. And we'll get some, lower cost versions of them. And now they're wearing them to school, and people are asking him, where'd you get that? Because they're seeing both of them wear it at the high school, thinking it's a brand that maybe is out there. It's not even out there yet. And we're talking about a month. So if that gives you any indication of kind of how easy it is and how much knowledge you have to have, it's stuff you could be doing today with very limited knowledge. You just have to know what to do and how to do it and where to go.
And it's kind of like the question of how, like, we keep talking about AI, this big deal on AI, right? But really, AI has a lot of different apps, different platforms, things like that. We couldn't get into practice. The first question was, which app or platform did you use for your question? You gave it when it told you. Was that just GPT or was that a paid version? I'm just curious.
So the question was, there's all these apps and there's a lot out there, and let's narrow in. The question that you asked in the app that read the answer back, what was it? It is GPT-4 paid. So GPT-4 paid version, which just got the ability to have a voice, and it's got eyes now. And I'm not sure if that's available in GPT-4 regular, because most of my time is spent looking at, if I ask GPT to do it, I want Gemini to do it, which is Google, which used to be called Bard. And if that's doing it, I want Claude 3 to do it. And I want to look at the answers across 3 of them. There's also reports out there now that show which ones have the most hallucinations, which ones are the most biased in certain areas, which ones are open about where their data is coming from and where they're scraping it from. So you can actually pick and choose just with a few white papers and reports where you want to go to get the information for your particular use case.
Do you think that, I mean, are most companies using multiple platforms, or is there one that you do every, I mean, are you find this question from here, this answer from this platform, this one gets answer from this platform?
The smart companies are using multiple for different use cases because they're not all created equal and they're not all the right fit for every single thing that you're trying to do. So depending on what you're trying to do, I mean, if you're an enterprise and you're building an ecosystem, the 15 things that I had up there on the list, you know, that's pretty, like a Target has a very high budget for this because they've got all of that in place. But a small and medium business, if you could find maybe the 2 or 3 things, I don't think it's out of question. And by the way, a little tip or secret for the business owners, some of these companies are okay with doing pilots or proof of concepts for free. So if you have the conversation and say, I'm a small business, I've got 12 to 20 people that are here, and I know you work with mostly large customers, but I'd love to possibly enter into a contract with you month to month. But first, I want to actually test out the 150 use cases that you've got and have access to those on my website and see if they actually work and pick and choose the ones that I want, because I don't want to anger my customers by just turning them all on at the same time. So there's varying levels and tiers that you can leverage and conversations you can have with the GPT-4s, the OpenAIs, or resellers of those tools to basically figure out what ones are going to make the most sense from a budget perspective. Yes.
Maybe it's kind of like for both of you guys. You have like, you know, I hear the students asking, you know, what technologies do I need, you know, or what skills, but if I were, and correct me if I'm wrong, is it like curiosity, flexibility, right? These ideas that like what you need to go into, if you're going to work for Apple Company, it's like, yeah, you need to be able to be flexible. Like AI is going to come out, you know, you look at these early technologies, you know, the computer, I forget who had what, but the early examples. And it's like, yeah, in 10 years, something else is going to come out. It's going to be called cat jumping, blah, 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 whatever it is. You know, like we're all going to be sitting here around the cat jumping technology symposium. It's almost like we should just think to ourselves, like, how possible should we be and how curious should we be? Is that, do you think that's true? I think that's not.
Loud and clear.
Okay.
So I'm going to repeat it for anybody that didn't hear it. So outside of the tools and the skills and the next shiny, flashy item, and I'm paraphrasing here, are there actual key behaviors that we need as either students or professionals to basically work on to be successful just the same? And I'll give my answer, and then Tyler, if you want to just chime in, I'll hand you the mic. Did I get that? Is that kind of where you're going? Okay. Okay. So I got asked a very similar question recently, and my top 2 answers were 1, curiosity, and 2, it was critical thinking.
Oh, yeah.
Critical thinking, you could kind of, they could be interchangeable, right? Depending on how you're looking at it. But those 2 skills, not only are they I would argue, some of the best 2 with some creativity, maybe peppered in there. That's the right recipe to me. That's my personal, but you know, as I'm hiring, as I'm looking for internships, as I'm looking for folks, I'm looking for that. And then we can teach you the data. We can teach you some of those things. You don't have to anymore be an analyst that crunches all these numbers. to do what I'm talking about.
So you're gonna teach them the quick sequence.
I'm gonna have AI and training teach them. Yeah.
But they have to be curious enough to want to learn that new quick sequence from the AI.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, and I had another student come up and ask me to, and it's hard to give an answer and say, you should go out and learn this one program, right? Because in 5 years, that could be relevant. I think that some of the life skills, that's just like in general, right? You think about how much I use Excel, right? Like I wasn't thinking long before I was using Excel. Oh, sorry, forgot this. I wasn't thinking long before I used Excel that I need to go and start training on Excel and get ready. So because of where we are in this, and especially in retail, it's hard to pinpoint, go learn these 3 programs like you can Illustrator or Photoshop. I think you're just gonna have to learn as you go. And to what Josh had said, yeah, a lot of this will be training at the job, because the program that we're using at Abercrombie could look very different than the program that they're using at a different retailer, and you'd have to learn that there if you went there. So I think you're always just going to be learning, and I think it's the openness to learn and being curious and continuing to push.
Online question?
Yes, question is, how can AI serve in food safety? And can it help restaurant owners improve the safety in food?
How can AI help in food safety, and how can it help
Restaurant owners to improve safety in food?
restaurant owners to improve safety in food? So on the fly, not a space that I generally spend a lot of time in, consulting more on the consumer side. But do know you get health reports, you get health inspections, people have to go through when you open in regularly and give you some data. There's a couple of things there that a lot of the large franchises have been doing. One, they'll obviously track that and need an action plan with that, but then keep a running historical log of those things. But more important, I think, is if you're not thinking about salmonella or those things from a food quality, but what your customers are saying and what your guests are saying about their experience at your restaurant. That's why you're getting those surveys after you've left. That's why you're getting those sometimes even mid-meal. They're looking for all of those data points of, was your server friendly when they approached you? How did the end of it go? Did they make you feel special and over the top? Restaurant owners should want to treat everybody with that high level of platinum, status. It's face-to-face or it's online, it shouldn't matter. You should be training your people to give that level of experience. And where you're not, you either need to be talking to those guests and logging that more qualitative feedback so you can see your trends over time so they're not just stuck up here. But then also using that data that's coming through the survey systems to basically engineer some sort of performance improvement plan around quality. In the back of the house and more of the kitchen space and some of that food quality, I'm sure there are things that are out there that exist today that basically, do some of that without the inspector coming in. Are there things that you could rapidly be doing almost like in a manufacturing plant? Tools or things that are reading things real time all the time that are aggregating that information so you have a dashboard and color coding that just shows you where the quality is off from your expectations. I mean, that's where we're going, is you're starting to look at some of these restaurants that have fewer and fewer people in the kitchen putting the food together and more machines. You're going to need that level of censoring or ability to look at what the machines are doing to say if the quality is still there, because you won't have as many humans to spot check it or eyeball it. So that was a tough one. I don't know if I answered that well enough, but maybe a very futuristic answer, but all right. Thank you guys, everybody, for your time.